Alright, y'all, so like the video says, this is going to be my video of Fort Jesus. If anyone knows me, they just know I love old and ancient artifacts, and I especially love old and ancient buildings like castles and things like that. I absolutely just love the history of buildings like this. So of course, when I went to Kenya, I had to go visit Fort Jesus on the island of Mombasa. So at this point, this is the entrance of when you are going into the fort. Big doorway. I did have a tour guide during this little visit of Fort Jesus because I just wanted to know everything about it. So I did have a tour guide. So I am going to cut the voice over off and the music off when she is explaining some things. So this was the entrance, like I said, in going into Fort Jesus. So, of course, this building here in the middle of the courtyard is, of course, a new building. It's the museum where they had just stored some old artifacts in there that was left here. And then here's our tour guide, and you'll just hear how excited I was to know what year this was built.
Shape of a
human being. This is the head, the arms, and the legs. Yeah. So the fort was built by the Portuguese. It was a massive coral rock, so they carved it in 1593 to 1596.
1593?
Yes, 1593. So they used it as a military base, and basically Portuguese came to Kenya to trade and to spread Christianity. So they were Christians. After the Portuguese, Arabs came in. The first attempt was in 1631, which was not successful. So they came back again in 1696, sieged the whole fort 2 years and 8 months, and then they took over. So basically Portuguese started dying to starvation. After that, British came in the 1800s during the colonial times, used the fort as a prison. Passages. This is the first passage. It is called the passage of arches due to this shape here. So Portuguese used to bring in weapons, that is the cannons and the cannonballs through that passage, and Arabs used to take out slaves using the same.
All right, y'all. Now, I know you may not be able to hear her, but that's okay. That's why it's just better to just go and visit Fort Jesus for yourself, because actually being in the space and being surrounded by all that history is just another feeling, and it's just another type of energy to actually be in that space. So in this case, you're not going to be able to hear her because them dang on crows or whatever type of birds them is, they just hawking away. But visually, you can see Fort Jesus, and like I said, you may not be able to hear her, but you can pick up some things, and I would rather you be able to pick up some things than that music playing.
Arabs used to lock up slaves in here.
So this space, if you weren't able to hear, is where the Arabs used to lock up slaves.
So the holes you see on the walls are evidence that the slaves tried to escape.
So apparently Fort Jesus was made out of coral rock and lime mortar. So all these holes were dug by slaves trying to escape. Now, I just find this so remarkable that people were able to keep this structure in its most original form. And I know sometimes it needs repairs, and I think they still do repairs using the same materials, which once again is coral rock and lime mortar. But I just think it's remarkable how this structure is still standing. It was built in 1593, so it's been like 431 years ago. I think that's just incredibly remarkable how it is still standing here today after all those years. So at this point, we are just walking up some steps that are in Fort Jesus, and I do want to point out that anytime my camera is down, it's just because I don't want to get other people's faces in the camera.
This was the urinal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one here is called the watchtower. There are 8 of them around the fort. So soldiers used to go up and watch for any enemies.
So this is one of 8 watchtowers. So towards the top of this canyon that I'm about to show you, there is going to be a little shape that is actually a crown, and that is the Queen's crown, which is how you can tell the difference between a British cannon and a Portuguese cannon.
So now this is a British cannon. The difference with the Portuguese one is this one has a handle. And so that you know that it's a British cannon, it has the crown.
The British cannons also has a handle.
So this food and that other one is the captain's house. Like the leaders were captains, so this was.
So this is part of a house inside of the fort, and that is basically what she was just explaining. Here is another British cannon. Once again, the British had invaded the Portuguese, so that's their cannon.
So now this one is different from the urinal. This is called a naming point. Bows and arrows. You put it like that. So you just come here.
Captain's bedroom.
Yeah, this is drops. And this two are like stands.
They're what?
Like stands.
Stands. Okay.
Yes. He used to put lanterns on top.
Oh, lamps.
Yeah.
Okay.
For light.
Did there used to be a roof?
There was This is the second passage, which is called the passage of steps. So the Portuguese used to bring in food, medicine, with some essentials through there. But all passages were blocked because this was a prison. So to reduce the chances of prisoners from escaping, yeah, they blocked them. This was blocked completely. The other one was blocked using bricks, and the other one was completely blocked until the family. So now this was the bathroom.
So this area is the bathroom. So I'm guessing the pee would go down that hole and I guess down the walls. But this is the bathroom.
This is called the captain's mess.
Look, it's a door my size.
Yeah, it's a Portuguese door. Portuguese were short and still are.
Okay.
was a what?
Yeah, I was done. The captain used to buy sodas and juice and all that stuff right there.
Yeah.
That was the shop.
So here, so this is the third passage. It's called the secret exit. Just in case there were any attacks from inside, they would go through there. Yeah, but
What is
right
this?
now it's blocked. So here, there used to be a flag post to direct the ship. During the siege, the Portuguese had some paintings. They were here. Right now they're there, we don't see them. So this is the Portuguese kitchen. You can see the chimneys. But for the British, this was the women's prison.
The men's what?
Women's
Oh, women's.
prison.
Okay, prison.
Like if you know like Katilili or Menza, she was jailed here.
Hello, welcome. We sell these eco-friendly bags. They are actually made from paper and bananas, and then later combined with the African print. They are also waterproof.
So when the Portuguese built this area, it was built as a kitchen. But then when the British invaded the Arabs, the British used it for something totally different than a kitchen. So when the Swahili Omani Arabs invaded the Portuguese, they actually brought in some of their doors. So these doors are the Swahili Omani Arab doors. What's this?
Still the same door.
That's door number 2.
I don't want to get you in my videos.
So these are the paintings, the Portuguese paintings.
These are real or y'all just redid it? These are real.
Yes.
What do they use?
Carbon black with red on sand.
So no one can touch that. I was shocked that this was original paintings.
So the boats and ships that were the main means of transport. The buildings with crosses on them, those are churches. So that means that the Portuguese were Christians. There is fish, that is the typical food. Portuguese used to dress like this, Arabs like this. So that means that the Arabs were more in number than the Portuguese. So this kind of thing. So this is used to form maize, that were the local 6%. After pounding the maize, which is there, you have the top. These are grinding stones for grinding sorghum and millet. This one here is for grinding spices, like this. So here, so during the siege, the Arabs sank a Portuguese ship. It was called Santo Antonio de Tana. So the Kenyan government and some local divers tried to excavate it, but it was not possible. So that is a model of excavation there. But because they didn't excavate the whole ship, they took some items from the ship. They're displayed there. So let's continue now. Before we get in cover. Boats are just made out of boats, Arabic ones. So this one was used for short distances, and the biggest was short distances. So from here, we have some items from the 9th century. We go like this to the recent. So I'll just let you
You want to capture those writings too?
All right, so the Portuguese, the Swahili, Omani Arabs, and the British all occupied Fort Jesus at one point.
from there. Here, that was the church, the Portuguese church. But it was later demolished by the Arabs because the Arabs brought Islam. So that means they had a different religion. So they were like rivals. That one there is the administration, our recent administration. But back then, it was the Portuguese graveyard.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just have it. So that is a ship anchor. So here is the Portuguese system. This is 56 feet deep. They used to collect rainwater, so that means they were using fresh water. So when the Arabs came in, they thought that the Portuguese had poisoned them using the water. So they dug their own well, which is 76 feet deep, but the water is very salty because it's straight from the ocean. But it's still in use.
يلا تعال انزل معي.
Inaenda deep mpaka wapi? Ai.
So this was the pit latrine.
Yeah?
The pit latrine. This is where they used to go for number 2. Yeah. So they used to just sit on it. So this is replica, though. It's a skeleton, but a replica.
It's real.
A replica.
It's a replica. It's the Portuguese priest. He's found here wearing a rosary. So that is how they named him the priest. But the real one is under. It was just buried here.
Oh, the real one's under. Who is it?
The Portuguese priest.
Oh.
Nini kwa ndani?
Ile pale.
Shika.
Tuanze hapa alafu
These are the three port cities in all of Africa. So when the Maya came to
his first cousin.
Iran.
Oman.
Oman, okay.
Money weapons. This is called a dagger. They used to put it on during ceremonies, like weddings. This one here is a sword. It's for war.
What is this? Oh, you're gonna talk about it.
So this is a whale.
A well?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Shit.
It's called humpback whale. But
These are real.
yes,
So, of course, on camera, the enormous size of this well, you're not going to be able to grasp unless you were actually there. But it was so huge, and to know that this was just a baby. This wasn't even a adult humpback whale. This is just a baby. And it was just so big.
Utele. Mgiriki.
So in 1952, Queen Elizabeth came to Kenya.
Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah. So this is a carrier that was used to carry her around all town.
Was there horses up here?
Nope.
Men? Y'all already know I had to take my little seat on the queen's throne, but apparently men carried this, around with her sitting on top. For some reason, I thought, it was like a carriage, a horse and carriage, but it was just men that carried her around on there.
Where that man is seated, right behind him, is the restaurant. So from here to the restaurant and the museum were the barracks, Portuguese barracks. Yeah, but when the British
Where the
came,
soldiers came,
Yeah.
or stayed.
slept. So when the British came, they used this side as cells, prison cells. Yeah. So after their era was done, they demolished this side.
So who built the fort?
Portuguese. It's from today till Sunday. Yeah. So this is the cannonball. It's very heavy. Actually, one time.
These are big steps. This is a workout. They must have strong legs. So these were some very steep steps for my little legs to climb. Like I was climbing stairs. I wasn't walking upstairs, I was climbing stairs.
So this was a gunpowder room.
Gunpowder room? They just kept gunpowder in there?
Yeah. So when the Arabs came, they also forced the Portuguese to turn to Islam.
What a sacrifice. Ain't nobody done some gunpowder. So basically what she said is when the Arabs came, the Portuguese burned the gunpowder. And of course, y'all already know I had to get my little 1-2 video up in there with Fort Jesus in the background. If you know, you know. There it is.
bahari. Ya wana
Utateremka tu.
hiyo ukifika unatoka nje.
Hapo hivyo nje kuna kanjia.
Unatoka nje unatoka.
Hamtafika huko mahali uliwaona. So this is now the assembly point. They used to look that for it. That is the British. Yeah. This was the flag post. The British flag post. I think it was
Wao wale vijana wenyewe wanaishi.
All right, y'all. So the tour is over. That was I pretty much recorded everything from start to finish, but that was the inside of Fort Jesus. And then our tour guide gave us a little history on it. Basically, the 3 territories, once again, was the Portuguese, and then the Swahili, Omani, Arabs came and defeated them, and then the British came and defeated the Arabs. So that was basically the inside of the fort. And then going on the outside and then just looking at the size of this, I just can't believe this was built like 431 years ago. That is a long time, and it is still standing. So I just can't believe that. Once again, I just love old and ancient architecture and buildings like that. So of course I had to visit Fort Jesus while I was here in Kenya. So then I seen some water in the back of the fort. And of course, I had to go towards the water. So this is basically in the back of the fort. And to get to the water, I didn't know I had to go through all of this mess here. These rocks and I didn't know I had to go through all of this to get to the water. But that is basically where I'm going. I'm going towards the ocean. So this is in the back of the fort, basically. And once again, there's rocks, there's trash. It's not a very pretty sight here, but once I get to the water, which is where I was wanting to head to, once I get to the water, it's you'll see why I had to cross over all of that, because once again, I seen water. I just had to go towards the water, and that's what I did. And just imagining, this is what the Portuguese actually, had to build the fort with. Like, if you see, this is like coral rock. This is what they used to build the fort. And just thinking about that, and so long ago, 431 years ago, thinking about the tools that they had and things just like that, it's just crazy to think that fort was built with just stuff right here that is right here in our face, with tools back then, 431 years ago. Like, come on, really? So yeah, but that's going to conclude my video of Fort Jesus. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell so that you don't miss the next notification of when I post my next travel video. And thank you guys for watching. Bye!